This is the Superpower Radio Show with your host, Brenda Major,
Mia Dawson.
and we are so excited. The guest that we have for you we're just honored and truly thrilled to have the Stringfields with us today. And thank God we can do this the way that technology is these days. They're in North Carolina, we're in Illinois, and we know that we are going to be reaching people basically all over the world. Welcome to the Superpower Radio Show.
Hello.
Thank you. It's a blessing to be here. We're
So
excited tonight.
we call this the Superpower Radio Show because we realize that um, we don't even call them neurodiverse because who isn't who is neuronormal and what is
Mhm.
that? We do know that um, it requires and it brings out superpowers when you are caring for people who need that additional touch. Um, and so we are just thrilled that you're going to be here to share a little bit of your journey. I'm telling you up front, we're going to have you back because we could talk to you for days. And I think our audience would benefit. And by the way, audience, you will be able to catch this episode and all of our previous podcasts on our website at www.adventuresofneo.com. And of course, it will be on our YouTube channel and on your wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Okay, so can you tell us? We talked a little bit to your husband, so he told us where you met, that you're both natives of North Carolina. Now, tell us a little bit about, again, how you met and about your journey that brought you to this place.
So my husband and I, we met in college at North Carolina State University. So I laugh when I think about it because um, we were both competitive and we were egging each other on, like who's the smartest in the class. We were electrical engineering majors. Um,
Mm.
we became friends, and then um, we became husband and wife, and it's just been a blessing to be on this journey. Well,
Mhm.
why we're here, we have three daughters. All of our daughters are have superpowers,
There we go.
and it has been a journey. We were my husband and I, we're both firstborn children,
Mhm.
first generation college students, and so there was a heavy focus on, okay, we got to succeed. We can
Mhm.
work
That
hard, we
expectation.
can do it. And so we had that same go get it attitude with our children, and we were running into challenges. It
Mm.
wasn't the journey wasn't looking like our journey as we grew up. And that was really how we got started on this journey. We didn't know what we
Mhm.
didn't know.
Right. And we've talked to so many people on the show and people who we meet at fairs and all over. And yeah, you don't know what you don't know. You have certain expectations. You notice that your child may not be meeting certain benchmarks, but I think Mia can tell you you still don't know who to ask or what to say. And even, you know, healthcare providers in many cases don't know, I'm trying to be nice, don't know exactly what to say, especially to people of color. So, yeah, can you share a little bit about what that diagnosis experience was like?
Well, it was a while before we got a diagnosis. It was
Mm.
my 8 and 9 years old before we had a diagnosis for autism, a diagnosis for ADHD, dyslexia, ADHD, for our two youngest daughters. And
Mhm.
then, believe it or not, our oldest daughter didn't get a diagnosis of ADHD until she was 18.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, if you read our book, we didn't know. at the time I wrote the book that our oldest daughter had ADHD.
Mm.
And so the journey was very interesting. I hit a wall. We were running into challenges with school. There was times when we were getting calls every single day. And sure, there's many of your listeners and viewers that have had experience where their child was kicked out of a school, a preschool,
Mm. Wow.
and a camp. And I was at a place of saying, okay, God, I am lost. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. People were saying, okay, your children are just spoiled. You're just not hard enough. You're not strict enough. You're not spanking them enough. They're
Mhm.
ruling you. And all of these things, these thoughts. And so what was that doing? That was causing me to say, okay, I'm a failure. And God,
Mm.
I know you didn't give me my children for me to be a failure. Um, and I just remember just crying out one day in the closet and saying, God, help me.
Mhm.
I need answers. And that became my journey because sure enough, like it was like that very next weekend, I actually I took one of my daughters, she wanted to go dancing. I took her to a dance studio and they asked the parents to sit in the lobby.
Mhm.
And I was sitting in the lobby and they took my daughter back to do the trial with the class. And I saw this other little girl and her mom, and this
Mm.
little girl was just moving and bouncing around that lobby just like my youngest daughter. And I just like a bee buzzing over here, buzzing over there, and bumping into me, bumping into chairs. And I was like, okay. And the mom's like, I'm sorry she's bumping into you. She's got sensory processing disorder, I'm really trying. I can't spank her because that doesn't work. So she was just talking out loud. And I was like, what
Oh.
in the world? And I said, well, what is this sensory processing disorder? And she started talking and she was telling me about it. And I said, well, how did you find out? And then she
Yeah.
told me about this free resource she went to. And it was just a powerful moment. And that was the answer to my prayer. And
Mm.
so I went that was the start of our journey. I went to that facility. I got assessed. Um, Two of my children at the time had sensory processing disorder, and I actually noticed some things in my oldest daughter too, in
Mhm.
terms of clothing, food, textures, all that stuff. And so that's what started our journey. And it was another 4 years before we ever got an autism diagnosis.
Wow.
So
Wow.
can I ask, well, at the school, what were you thinking was going on then? Since you kind of didn't get you really didn't get your answers at the school. They were calling you, telling you to come to get them or whatever was going on. But so what did you think was going on at the school?
So let's talk about what happened before we even got to the point that she's talking about. So
Okay.
our youngest, we noticed just how unique she was. She talked loud.
Mhm.
Mm, She didn't know her own strength, but very smart in all
Okay.
the things. I mean, we've got pictures of her playing a violin just based on someone showing her, little various things. So she picks
Mhm.
things up so quickly. But you could be standing on one side of the room, and I would come home. And as a man, you have to kind of there are parts of your body that have to be protected when there are small people approaching. And so she would come literally full speed. And when she would hit you, it was like a linebacker hitting you
Wow.
because of her speed and strength. And as my wife
Mhm.
said, bumping into things, she just did not have a sense. But we didn't know what
Mhm.
all that stuff was. And
Okay.
so as we worked through preschool and all those type scenarios, that's where a lot of you don't know what you don't know. And
Hmm.
Mhm.
so school would call and tell us she's hogging the ball. Nobody else can hold the ball but her. And so I said, well, I got a little money. I will bring her own ball, because if she
Mhm.
doesn't have the ball, there will not be a game. And so, it was all those type things that we were trying to work through, make accommodations for, that we couldn't understand. Then we
Oh,
had a couple of incidents that she ran into, and it's just all the things that she said, but we had no knowledge, we had no information until we
Okay.
came up to that point. And so, we did get removed from a daycare and told not to come back. We could put our feet back on the premises, but we could not, in any other capacity, bring that child back
what?
to this
Wow.
place.
Wow. 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 Wow.
Yeah.
And so those were the type scenarios where I said to myself, well, this is, and my wife talks about it in the book, the framework of LOVE. Well, this is not a place that can level up. Obviously, you don't have things in order because you don't know how to deal with this, and you don't see our vulnerability, and you're not expressing any empathy. That's
Mm-hmm.
LOVE. And
Mm,
so we
mm,
kind of had to operate out of that space in looking for environments to put the kids in. So fast forward,
Yeah.
now we've got, and you can talk about the preschool transition if you want to, where we found an environment. It
mm.
still didn't have a diagnosis, but it was
Okay.
old school, and not even I'll just say, not even in the same ethical framework that we come
Mm,
from, but knew how to deal with children in that capacity. And so that was a transition point for us. And then when we moved into the regular school system with her in kindergarten, that's when we began to see kind of the next phase of things. And then the calls, they turned to, she's here, she's in the closet, she's kind of locked herself in. We're dealing
mm,
with it here, or she's pushed this child down, or this child's been, she did, kind of hit this child, or just a lot of different things that were just bubbling up out of the anxiety, the fear. We didn't know that change was an issue. It was really a learning
mm,
journey
Mm.
for us to get there. So those calls began to, initially they were accusatory.
Yeah.
okay.
At one point, she was labeled almost as an angry Black female.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
In the
At 4.
second, yeah, yeah,
4 or
first
5.
and second
Well,
grade.
I have to tell you, you are being so
Yeah,
I don't want to say politically correct. You're just so
yeah,
astute about
and
knowing
so,
exactly what to say. We know what you mean.
yes,
yeah.
and so she, the calls, Mia, they turned to, they moved from accusatory to, once we got into the IEP process and we began to figure out what a behavioral improvement plan was, we hired a external advocate to come in and help set those things, help us establish those frameworks. And then the calls became more collaborative, but there were still issues.
Hmm.
Wow.
And that's just elementary.
Wow.
My
Wow.
goodness. When you guys when you started to get those diagnoses, and even before then, were you questioning each other? I mean, I love, and we're gonna get a little bit more into the book too, because honestly, Nakia, hands down, the best book I have read
Oh, wow.
dealing with superpowers. And Mia can tell you, we read a lot. We read
We
a
read a
lot.
lot. We
The
do. We do.
concepts are unbelievable, but
Mhm.
knowing that you needed to look for that environment where your kids, so how did you know not to do what unfortunately a lot of parents do, which is turn in on
Mhm,
each other and blame each other?
mhm,
And you
mhm,
speak to the, losing the guilt in the book, but it almost seems natural for a lot of the parents we talk to. They're
Yeah.
in denial,
yeah.
they're angry, they're
Yep.
pointing fingers,
Yep.
uh, if
So let
they're
me help
even
you.
still together.
Yeah. So let me go first, and then I'll
Yeah.
be brief, and then you come in. So let me tell you the other side of that story of NC State. So when she met me, she thought I was stuck up. She, we were engineering students. I wasn't her flavor. She wasn't
Oh
mine.
my.
Um, didn't even know who she hung with, that crew that I just didn't understand. And so, it was
the
what it
truth.
was.
He's telling the truth. Yeah.
And so we met as what, sophomores, I think it was. But as we begin to get into the core classes within our discipline, you have to build a community or a network if you're going to survive. And so, we started doing the homework groups, and she had mutual friends. I knew some of the guys that she was close to. And so we all kind of got introduced and connected. And then I became the resource for all the good homework information, because I was
Y'all hear this? Oh my goodness.
And so,
We're gonna get another side of this.
Are you still
Yeah.
on the question, or is this
So,
Giving us
so
the background.
I am responding to the question. And so we became friends, just genuinely that. And our relationship has spawned from that, in that there was no ulterior motive. There was no other intention other than, we need friends in life. This person has the character that matches mine. And then we began to discuss similar values. And, it just evolved from a friendship to, hey, that's a wife. That's someone that I could see myself not getting married to, but staying married to.
Right.
And so that.
Okay, now you land in the plane. I see where this is going now,
so
okay.
that friendship, it morphs, it mutates into whatever area that we're dealing with. And the partnership component of that is how we keep things bonded. So when there's an issue with one, she's dealing with one now. When there's an issue with one, it is not a competition at that point. It is, what is the best solution for all of us?
Okay.
And not what do, because I have strong opinions, she has strong opinions, but when you get into those scenarios, it cannot be just my prevailing opinion or her prevailing opinion. What needs to be the framework for us to get through that? And that's how we kind of deal with it. I mean, initially, when we were still in the learning phase, she went up the ramp before I did, because as we, based on our backgrounds, this stuff was all new. Some of the things that the people were saying, and I know a lot of the viewers out there would agree with it, I was agreeing with them. Yeah, we need to do more of that, because that's what I got when I was growing up, was more of that. But when you, but I'll land by saying this, because she was in one space, I was in another, but she kept bringing information to me, and the analytical mind would not allow me to deny the information that she was bringing me, which was telling me we need to do something different. And then when I'm seeing what I'm doing and it's not working, when you see that how things occurred with you in your upbringing, and you're implementing that with this, and you see something vastly different, and you're not doing it different than how it was, because trust me, I was very intimately exposed to understand how it should be done. And that child is not responding the way that you responded in that moment, then it's the definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing, you're expecting a different result. You're expecting that child to respond like you did, and they're not. So no. And when I say to respond differently, I mean just sensory processing, just touch. And you see touch, and you see a severe reaction. You gotta respond to that in a different way. So
He laid the foundation. I'll just say it was a tense time, but we kept that, the friendship kept us grounded. That was the foundation. So when I said, look, this isn't the right way, and I showed him the article. So I was bringing him articles. I was bringing him documentation. Like I said, it would start with this sensory processing disorder. I had no idea what that was. But I was patient. I had to be patient. I was still praying because I was like, because I knew God had opened the door for me to get that information.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
understand?
Yeah.
So once I knew
Was
that I
answered.
prayed and he answered my prayer, and
Mm.
I didn't have the full answer, but I was on the right path.
And I knew
So
from a relationship perspective, because I know her character, I know who she is at the core. We waited 8 years before we even had a first child.
Okay.
And so we spent all
Mm.
that time just us, wherever we wanted to go, however we wanted to go. We did grad school together. We did all those things. So when you know a person's intentions, and I knew she didn't have ill intentions in anything that she was coming to bring to me during those, even during the periods of tension, it's just, I don't like what you're saying. I don't like the way that sounds. And I don't like the situation that we're in. But
Mm.
you got to make a decision, and you got to do something different.
yeah, and all I would say is it was we bonded together doing this, and we had to try new things. We had to be curious, like, okay, we see this, and having that experience where we took our child out of one preschool, put them in another preschool, and like you said, it was in a different environment, a different brace of individuals, but they showed so much love, and we saw
Mm.
our child blossom in that love.
And
And
mind you, we had two older daughters at the time.
we saw it make the difference in that child's self-esteem. We
Okay.
saw
Mhm.
her stop thinking that she was so bad. And so all of those things were factors in it. And then we saw gifts, superpowers
Yeah.
start to come out, right? And Brenda, I want to go back to something, if you would allow me,
Sure.
because in that same story where I was talking about, I was in the lobby,
Mhm.
um, and I was observing this girl that looked like my youngest daughter. My middle daughter was in there learning how to dance, and I went back into that room.
Oh,
Mhm.
just
You went on
muted
mute.
yourself. It's okay.
Uh-oh.
I don't
Mhm.
even know how that happened, but okay.
Mhm.
Did, um,
You got to
so
get you back on camera too. It's all right. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. So I went back. So the teacher wanted us to go back and see what they learned in that class. So I went
Mm.
back in, and my middle daughter was performing the performance like she had been in that class for weeks.
Wow.
And the
Mm.
teacher was
Mm.
like, we want you to come back. We're going to be in a parade on Saturday. She had only been to one class.
Wow.
And
That's
she was
superpower.
doing it just like everybody else, and it was flawless, and I could see the freedom on her. And that my middle daughter is the one has dyslexia and ADHD.
Mhm.
And I saw in movement, catching movements, dancing is part of her superpower.
Yeah.
And so it was just a powerful thing. So at the time, I didn't know she had dyslexia. I
Mm.
didn't know she had
Mm.
ADHD. I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out what was going on. I'm feeling like a failure about all my kids right now, at that time. And so at that moment, I was like, God, you heard me. One, I got this new thing called sensory processing disorder. And then two, this daughter that I thought was just not getting a whole bunch of stuff is
Mhm.
here blooming with dance. Like she had been asking me to take her to dance. I take her to one class and I got a chance to see a gift. The
Mm.
gift for her loving the dance, the gift for her moving. I was like, wow, look at this.
Oh,
Mm.
that is beautiful. That is beautiful. I I have to say, because you had that foundation, you guys came from those analytical minds. You had that foundation of trust, getting to know yourselves, getting to know each other, getting to know each other's character. And that's, a whole nother show about, getting to know the person before before you decide to, launch a life with them. But thinking about how beautifully you were able to then kind of weave your learning process into an incredible book, an incredible book. I I think I've highlighted, I was not trying to, I highlighted some on every page. I'm like, okay, I can't talk about this book all night, but it speaks to people. I mean, you can definitely just the title Rewired Parenting.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think it kind of a little play on your background, on your
Mhm.
technical background, but so many times I have read books and it's all about how the parent is dealing with the child, dealing with the neurodiversity, not
Mhm.
even considering that, okay, yes, they are wired differently, but this is an opportunity and a challenge for you to do the same so that
Yep.
you can relate to your child. And that is what makes the book beautiful. So
Very good.
you've got that, plus you've got incredible solid resources and research in there. And then you bring in the encouragement and the faith and the inspiration. So you are talking to everybody. And I know that's a long question, but here's the question. How did you come up with that?
Oh my goodness. I can't take credit. The it was God. And the reason why I say that is because first of all, I was praying and God told me there's nothing wrong with your children.
Hmm.
I heard that clearly in prayer.
Hmm.
You have to change your mindset about your children. Your children are indeed a gift. Your children are a blessing from me. Your children have superpowers. And that was the start of the journey. And I would say that I did have a dream, and I got all the chapters in one night. Woke up, and I actually wrote all
Oh,
the chapters down. Yes,
whoa.
yeah, and so I really do mean it came from God. It was divinely given to me, but it was a process. It was a journey. It was our journey that God took me on to understand the gifts that I have. And I say that there's nothing wrong with your children because what I see happen is, and my husband and I, we talked to quite a few couples and
Mm-hmm.
family members. They start wanting to change the child immediately.
Mm.
They want to wish away the diagnosis, wish away the situation, and know our children aren't their diagnosis, their label, but it gives you insight on how they are and to accept them and help them to grow and
Yeah.
level up. And if you start with wanting to change them, what I see is the child, it causes trauma on the child. It can, let me say it that way, it
Mhm.
can cause trauma to the child, where the child now has depression and feel like they're nobody and that I'm not even safe in my own house. I'm not
Mm.
even safe at school. There's nowhere I can be safe. And I talk about that from experience because I do believe there was a place where my youngest daughter did was very high strung. She didn't feel safe at school. She didn't feel, and here we are taking her to this same place where she doesn't feel safe every day.
Wow.
And it became a point that I'll never forget my daughter. They called me and my daughter was screaming. I heard her in the background and I said, my God,
Mm.
my child needs me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And she needs me to go in and rescue her. And that was the time we took her out of an environment. And I realized, okay, I need to assess every environment on my child. And I haven't gotten it right every single time. But I tell you one thing, we use the love framework to
Mhm.
evaluate places to see if it's the right place for our child. And that includes our home. And
Mm.
we still evaluate, we still make adjustments. Um, as you go through transitions, especially, from middle school to high school, from
Mm.
elementary to middle school, those are major changes. And so we are still making adjustments today for
Yeah.
different things.
And if I could, I'll add there. So by the way, I was in the bed laying beside her on those nights when she was having those dreams. I'm just saying. Some interesting nights. But
Love it.
we
I
lost
love
your
it.
camera, Nakia.
Okay.
So
Might have intended that one.
every so that you mentioned the analytical mind, which I don't think is a bad thing.
No, it is not.
Now it's not the beautiful mind. Don't get me twisted with the movie, but the
No.
analytical mind is a terrible thing to waste. Let's say it like that. So process is important. I mean, and we're people of faith. So faith is a process. You have to work it. You hear preachers talk about that. So it's a process. Healing is a process. Treatment is a process when you go into the medical space. So all of these things. So the mindset in training a child is a process, regardless of if that child is neurotypical or neurodiverse. It's a process. And by definition, process doesn't mean it happens when you start. It means it happens, or it progressively gets, better, or you reach the outcome through the working of the process. So data became critical to us. All the information we could find, all the resources we could talk to, all the people we could live with. And I'm from the country, so they'll tell you, you chew the meat and you spit out the bones, in so many words. And that was our mindset that we had to have, in that I understand that's working for you. I hear what you're saying, but I know how it works over here, and it don't look the same. And so we had to begin to formulate our mindset, not as much about trying to change the child right now, but how do we get the resources to support the child so they can develop into what we desire them to be, to the best of their abilities. And that distinction requires you as a parent to understand that that child's path may be different than yours. It may be even different than the one you had dreamed for them to have, but there is a pathway that they can progress through. You just got to give them the supports that they need, whether that's interventions, whether that's therapies, whatever it is, the child needs it. It's going to be a part of their process, and it's okay is the big thing. And that requires a big mindset shift, which was kind of where it was what she describes in the book. Is that
And
mindset?
that's why I was kind of laughing, because Brenda was laughing too, because she know that's where I was at when my kid got diagnosed at 3. I went to God. I was like, Daddy God, okay, come on, do what you do. I don't even care. Just come on, touch him, and let's move on so we can go to the next step here. And then he wasn't moving. I'm like, hey, dude, I remember we had to talk. It's me. Hello. Touch him, and so we can get moving. We got stuff to do. And so you're right. I stayed stuck in that fix him. Well, excuse me, not fix him. Heal him now, as opposed to heal him. No, this is going to come over. And he told me a different, similar. He's already healed. And so whenever you figure that out, we can move. Then he said, we can move on, but you gonna have to figure out that he's already healed, and then we're going to move on. And so Nakia, I definitely understand. That's why I started laughing, because it was the same thing. And he was like, I'm ready for your mind to shift. He's fine. He's going to get it. And but until you get on this board, it's going to be harder. And so we have to, and I know Brenda and I both tell that to parents, because parents come to us, overwhelmed and everything, and they want it done, and they even talking to us, they want it done right now. We're like, hey, this is going to be a process.
Yes.
So that has to get explained so quickly, so early on.
Yes. And going through that process, that's when I also started to, God was dealing with me. Like you said, God was dealing with you. God was dealing with me of different things, of slowing down, appreciating certain things about my child, appreciating certain things about my family, of just seeing things differently, of working the muscle of faith, working the muscle of confession, working the muscle of belief, and working the muscle of prayer. because
Yeah.
prayer was a strategy. Prayer is a strategy. And I
It
think
sure is.
about when my daughter, I'm going to talk about this because sometimes it's easier for people to relate to an issue of reading and dyslexia versus autism for some reason. It's just
Mhm.
easier. So I didn't know what to do with my, how to support her during the summer. So she was we got the diagnosis. She was in the 3rd grade. She was reading on the 1st grade level. And it was a struggle. And I was concerned because now it was impacting her esteem about herself.
Mm.
And so all these other subjects she wasn't getting. So she was
Mm.
getting further behind. And I went to God and I said, okay, God, what we gonna do? What do I need to do? And he answered me. He told me, you need to go and talk to this teacher and ask her, can she teach your child during the summer? That's how it was. Like, I got this flash. I got this vision that she was supposed to be teaching my child. And I was like, oh, she's a teacher. Well, I can't afford her. I mean, you talking about a 101 camp for my daughter. She's got to support herself. And I was actually afraid to go ask.
Oh my.
And I
Wow.
went to ask. I finally told my husband, and I went to ask. And he said,
And
sure.
what did I tell you when you came to tell me?
You just told me to go and go. I
No,
don't
I told
remember.
you
What
more
did
than
you
that.
say? Go
I
ahead. What did
know.
you say?
I had already been thinking the same thing.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
And
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes.
yeah, I had already been thinking about that exact
Mm.
lady and trying to see how we could leverage her during the summer to help support. And so when she came to me about it, I said, okay, yeah, go ahead, do it.
That
And
was
then
confirmation.
I went to her, and guess what she said? She had the thoughts that she wanted to work with my daughter.
It
Oh
was
my
already
goodness.
about to come
Okay.
to us.
That's the God hookup. There you go. God was just waiting for God's probably like, will somebody say something so we can get this going?
And that was a transformational summer. She gave her 101 tutoring camp. It was a 101 camp all summer.
Wow.
And the price that she had, we were able to afford and do. And it was wonderful. And that actually put her on grade level that one summer.
Wow. 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 Wow.
No, all three of you have just been talking about something that you wrote so beautifully about in the book, and that is rewiring your faith. Can you guys share a little bit about that process? Because we know that there are parents who pray over their kids. I mean, we know that there
Yes.
are people who pray, and some of the
Yes.
prayers that we pray are so, a little manipulative,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So tell us, what is that process like for, and how can a distraught parent even get to that?
Mm.
well, for me, and Nakia and I have talked about this, so I'll be brief. It all comes down to this: God can heal, He can do, He can, all those other things. But what are you gonna do while you're waiting?
Mm,
Mm.
Because the scripture clearly says faith without some kind of works is null and void, being alone. So while
Mm.
you're believing, while you're trusting,
Mm.
what are you doing? And you're not
Mm.
taking over and trying to do what he can do, because only he can
Yeah.
do that. But what can you
Yeah.
do in the power that you've been empowered with, the capacity that you have? What resources are available? What supports? All those type things. Why would you not leverage them when they've been made available? So that's how I balance it.
okay.
Yeah. And it started also with God, show me the child you've given me through your eyes. That's where
Mm,
it started with me. So, like, how show me the beauty of this child that you've given me. Let me see all. So that was where God was really dealing with, because I was getting to and I've seen other parents get there. I was getting to a place of starting to, um, this is going to sound a little harsh, but almost like not resenting, but just frustrated
mhm.
with this parenting thing. Like, okay, I feel like I'm failing. I'm not used to this failing thing. Like I'm used to, if it fails, okay, I got to work harder and I adjust and
Figure it out.
shift.
Mhm.
And like Mia said, we moving on, you know.
Yeah.
But this was a thing that, and I really do think um, God has us on this assignment for a reason, you know,
Yes.
and it slowed us down. And then God started showing me, okay, I need you to be thankful. So the
Yep.
fruit of the spirit,
Yep.
and I'm either
Yep.
going to write an article or something else about that, but all of those fruit of the spirit,
Mhm.
they had to
Yeah.
come into play.
Yep.
Every one of them.
Yep.
Every
Yep.
single one of them, you know, like love is the framework, but okay, how am I going to stay in this joy moment? How am I going to recognize joy? Uh, this long suffering, okay, you know, it got to a place, and I'm very thankful too that my husband and I, we are engineers, so there was some financial um resilience that we have, and we had
Mhm.
some monies to do certain things, okay, and so that's also a reason why I my husband and I, we are going to start a nonprofit in this space, because part of what we notice is sometimes people don't have the means or the know-how to even go
Very
forth
true.
to do diagnosis.
It's very
um,
true.
I will never forget our very first speaking engagement. I was so overwhelmed with all these parents that said, I don't know what to do. And then the answer that was given was, oh, you can go and you can get a diagnosis or get assessed through the school system. I was like, oh no. And inside I was like, oh no, that's not the right answer. Um, and I said that wasn't the right answer because we know that that's not the full answer,
Yes.
right? Um, and the full answer costs money. And if you don't have the means and you also don't have access to the environment, some of these places take 6 months waiting period. We were on waiting period for 6 months for OT until I started calling every day. So I
Mhm.
need some
Okay.
help now. But that's why we really feel called to be speaking about this,
Mhm.
to be available, because we want there to be hope that you can win with your family. You're not a failure. Um, your children are a gift. And
Mm.
I really do believe that we need to look at our children as gifts, as superpowers, and that will shift when the parent shifts their mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Mia, you guys had a similar experience. I don't know that you may not have called it rewiring your faith, but I remember you sharing about when you realized, like even your husband Stefan was saying, I am learning from my child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We say
And
that
the
all the
word
time.
that God basically declared over Neo, when he was, well, I'll let you tell that story because it's a
Well, he
good
was young and he told us, he said, Neil's first sentence was, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
one.
And so for our process, I can't speak for Stefan's, but I know for my process, he showed me little victories along the way. So it was like, okay, these were the little victories. Now my type A personality was like, oh, you gave me one, let's go to 10. And it's like, no, 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 no. We could go one, and we're gonna go to 5, and then we're gonna go to 10. And so for me, I seen those little victories when he said that. I said, oh, okay, this child is fine. He's gonna be okay. And so as parents too, we have to learn not to force and to push, because I think once he did that, I can remember doing math with him. And the Holy Spirit was like, you need to stop because you're now forcing it. He knows how to get this, and you're wanting him to get the answer, and you're wanting him. And once I laid off,
Mm.
just started.
Yes.
And so I tell parents all the time, it's that we want it right now. And you're not allowing. And there was times, I know for a fact, I tell Brendan all the time, I know there were spaces I missed enjoying him because I was so worried about fixing him. And I
Yes.
was so worried about the Lord isn't healing him and he not listening to my prayers. And so I missed these beautiful times because I was in a different headspace. I was there physically, my mind was somewhere else. I'm trying to figure out who looking at him. Why they saying that? Why they watching him? What is he doing? He flapping his hands. Is that? And so I'm not enjoying. So now I'm understanding he rides horses, he plays the piano, he's a prayer warrior, he's like that, he all that stuff. And so now I'm like, I'm catching up. And I do feel like I feel a lot better now that I'm enjoying him. And even when he does start flapping or he's having a sensory, how to calm him down and how to still enjoy it. Because I think that's, as parents, we don't get to enjoy. And I miss so much. No, I missed enough for me that I did not enjoy because I was so concerned about what someone's saying. I was so concerned, do I have to be mama bear and hurt somebody? Because I mean, you're thinking that. That's all that stuff is going on in your head. And so we tell parents all the time, I know it's hard. You have to take a breath and try to grasp on and enjoy these moments. And my husband always says, he says, babe, I think they're smarter than the neurotypical. They know stuff that the Lord and giving them gifts, and they know stuff that we don't even know.
Mhm.
And so us rewiring and understanding that and explaining that and seeing that.
See, that is so powerful, Mia. I just love that story, that journey that you and your husband have been on with Neo. Enjoying the moment,
Yes.
finding the beauty in each and every moment,
Yes.
is so powerful because your child can sense.
Yes.
They
Amen.
can know when you're disappointed in
Amen.
them. They know when you, whether you say it or not, they know when you're angry with them because they didn't get it like you want them to get it. Oh, you got that
Yes.
face?
Yes.
If they're talking, but otherwise
Mhm.
they can internalize it too, those feelings.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
that's what we see sometimes is the child shutting down. And that's
Yeah.
what I mean when I say we can inflict, unfortunately,
Yes.
intentionally or not, trauma on our own child. And
Yes.
that's that's what God had to deal with me about was, okay, God, I repent. Okay.
Yep.
That was part of my
Yep.
rewiring my faith. I got to repent. Okay,
Mhm.
God,
Yep.
show me how to do it differently.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's when I really
Absolutely.
started to enjoy. I mean, it didn't mean every day was easy. It was like,
Right.
even in a hard day, I can see the beauty in that day that guess
Yeah.
what? It was different. It was less than
Mhm.
prior
Yeah.
experience. And
Yeah.
Yes.
you made me think about something, Mia. It was chaotic in our house before we had any diagnosis. It was chaotic. Like we were like, oh, you just need to sit down. Oh, you just need to eat all the food on your plate. Clean that plate. So all those expectations we had growing up, we were superimposing that on our child,
Yes.
and we weren't listening. We weren't looking at the clues.
Mm.
Were not thinking. We were not observing. So once we
How you
started
look for clues you
observing,
don't know?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know, but we have to look at, okay, like you said,
We just knew something was wrong.
we
Something
just
was
knew
different.
something was wrong. But when
Mhm.
we start getting information, then you have to do
Yeah.
something with that,
Mm.
right?
Yep.
You have to put it
Yep.
in practice. You have to put the works in.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
What advice would you guys give to just frustrated parents? I mean, I would tell them to read your book, but what would you say to encourage them to let them, to let them know, okay, there is hope. What would you say? What's one thing you'd really want them
So
to know?
you want to say that or you want me to go first?
You can go first. Go ahead.
Ask yourself why you're frustrated.
Hmm.
Mm.
Assess that thoroughly. Is it really
Mm.
frustration with the child or is it frustration about how you feel? Is it live? Is it Memorex? Is it really real? Because a lot
Mhm.
of times we take things to levels that they don't really need to be taken to. Like in the example that Mia provided, where you're sitting in the room with your child and you're saying, why are they looking at them like that? You don't know what's in
Yeah.
that person's mind. You really
Yeah.
don't know what they're thinking about. They may not even be looking at your child. If they are, how you know they're even thinking about your child when they're looking at them? How do you created all these scenarios in your mind and now you're
Yeah.
frustrated by all of these things. So what
Yeah.
truly is frustrating you? And then
That's very.
you can begin to make adjustments and assessments from there. And if it's a fact, it's real, it's tangible, and it's frustrating, then you may need to seek some support, some help, some therapies, depending on whatever it is, or you may need to investigate the resource. But you got to begin with what's truly frustrating you and begin to wind that back. And it all boils down to expectations. So when I understood that my children were wired differently, I set a different set of expectations for myself. Because you have to then begin to say what is within the realm of possibilities currently.
Yes.
And then, because if you're living in the future, you're not dealing with the present. And if you spend too much time in the present, then you can't get to the future. So I'm talking in circles for a reason. You have, it's about balance. And it's about setting proper expectations for yourself. Then you can begin to align expectations for the child. So I'll illuminate a little more, and then I'll be quiet. So fast forward, our youngest she's entering high school. She's made that transition to high school. It's been an interesting transition. It's been a challenge because of the social dynamics and the thing that she deals with. But I had to go pick her up from school the other morning because she was escalated, animated, and a lot of things that led into it, pressures, work, all those different type things. But she literally needed a break in the moment. And so I could not, from an expectations perspective, because I got the call from school, Mia, and well, she need to figure that out. I mean, if I say in my mind, she need to figure that out, because, she, however tall she is and how old she is and all that kind of stuff. But no, let's really assess what's going on, because I need to work. I don't have time to go down there and do that because I got to take care of my responsibilities and all that kind of stuff. But no, I got to reassess this. I'm a little bit frustrated by it, but it's okay because I'm still the pappy, as they say. Y'all saying life, I'm the pappy. So, I got to go do what the pappy does. It's time for him to show up, because this child, at the end of all the frustrations, that child is looking for you as their safe space, is how I'll say it. Even when they're in the wrong. And in the neurodiverse space, we know it's difficult sometimes to even get the children to know and acknowledge when they're wrong, because that internal won't allow them to. But whether they're right or whether they're wrong, you got to be there and show up in both of those scenarios. So for me, it's about those expectations.
Well, I should have went first, but what I will say is, it's so important to know that I'm going to say two things: environment and community. Environment and community. It's important to be in community with like-minded people, so that you can have a safe place for yourself as a parent. As you navigate. So I definitely encourage you to find community. If you don't have it, this is a great community with the Superpower podcast. And the second place, because you might not have community in your family, in your extended family. And so you need to make sure you have community. The other part is environments. You want to make sure you're going to environments that will help your child build capacity. And I'm not going to say resilience, because your child will be resilient because they already are navigating this world that is built for neurotypical. So they're going to be resilient, but how do you build capacity to navigate? And that's where they need you. And I like to call it, we serve as their grace bubble.
Love that.
We are surrounding them with grace. We are taking the blows. We're making sure that we're helping make room around them so that they can grow and they can be who God wants them to be. They can develop their superpowers. They can be strong. So those are the two things I would say.
Beautiful. So as we're wrapping up, just for this one time, because we're, but we always ask our guests, what would you say is your superpower?
I should have something at the tip of my tongue.
I got you.
Okay.
You
No,
ready to
and
go?
I
No.
tell you what, we have had people who, when we've had a husband and wife on before, they flipped the script and they were saying, he told
They
what her
told
superpower
us.
Well,
was.
I'll tell you what my
Yes,
husband's superpower is. You know,
Yeah.
he is strong and consistent. And that shows up in so many different ways, not only as a father, a husband, but also as a leader in corporate America, but just in general. And I believe that's a superpower he has.
Mhm.
So how can I say this? Compassionate research.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she will hear or see a scenario because she's a problem solver, and she'll go and she'll dig into the research, the data, and all those things, and then bring it back to you in a compassionate way as to support through the process. And the way we make it work, she comes with all the data, and then I'm what she says I am in terms of execution and delivery upon that, and then we balance those two. But for her, that's it. She is how can I say this? Hope is one of the things that she hopefully it was caught as an underlying theme in that book,
Oh,
is
yeah.
that
Yeah.
there's always a place for hope, and that's where the compassionate research kind of, as I describe it, comes from in that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you. I agree. Yeah.
I mean, again, we are going to have you back, and I really want you to tell us a little bit about where people can get your book, Rewired Parenting.
Absolutely. It is available on Amazon. You can also go to rewiredcoach.com. We're also available. We do parenting coaching and marriage coaching. We just have a heart for families to win.
That's awesome. Well, you definitely have, touched the hearts of so many people today. And again, there is so much more. I mean, even the way that you structured the book, it's really how you live your lives. There's so many layers
That's good.
that you touch on, and then you go deeper and deeper and deeper. It's kind of like as you're reading the book, you're taking us on a journey, honestly, into myself is where you took me. And I appreciate it. But we're gonna talk more, so much more next time. But for now, thank you guys so much for being on the show, for spending time with us today. We truly appreciate it. So this is the Superpower Radio Show, and this is Brenda Major and
Mia Dawson.
okay, and we're signing off for now.